Are we live? We are
We're
live. I love that. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to welcome you today to our speaker spotlight for the amazing Camie Harvey. I think she's really amazing. I've had the privilege of having her speak at several conferences and perform some really amazing community drum circles. She's also been able to attend a private, intimate retreat that we did up in Idaho at the beginning of this year as well. So I've seen her work in intimate circles and also large, really large circles as well. And she is so much fun. She's got a lot of charisma and energy and just really a lot of care for people. So I love what she does. And I'd like to go ahead and read her bio. She is a licensed therapist, a sound healer, and trained drum circle facilitator who supports people in their healing journey. Her story of personal transformation involves recently coming out as a lesbian, getting divorced, and leaving her religion all at the same time. And wow, so a lot of transition and courage all at once. Since she has opened a private practice specializing in EMDR and ketamine therapy, which I hope that you'll talk just briefly about that today as well. And she's also the owner of Flowing River Circle, providing interactive rhythm events for companies and communities. And she's studied with shamans in Peru and Iceland, and that helps to bridge the science of psychotherapy with the spirit of indigenous healing. So there is a lot there. It's so exciting. Welcome to today. So thank you so much for being here, Camie.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that, Tammy. I forgot what was in my bio. It was good to hear it again.
Yeah.
So like you said, I am a mental health therapist, and I specialize in populations of people dealing with depression and anxiety. A lot of people that have gone through a faith transition or experiencing a faith crisis, if they're like in a mixed faith marriage, and also LGBTQ plus concerns. So basically, I'm a great fit for someone who's looking for a lesbian therapist who has left religion.
Yeah.
And then I get to do all these drum circles too with my other business. And so with the next energy healing conference in Pocatello at 12 o'clock, we're going to have like a massive drum circle. Yes, I'm so excited, in the Bengal Theater at Idaho State University. I have enough instruments for 300 people.
So everyone in seats. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And it will be great. And if there's less than 300, that just means you get to play more than one instrument. So you can have like 3 instruments. And, you know, drumming and sound has been used for healing for centuries in cultures all around the world. It's a beautiful way to get people together. And after having experienced COVID and all this like chaos last few years, I think a lot of people are craving connection and community. A lot of people have been dealing with loneliness and feeling disconnected and isolated. And so to be able to bring people together and to be able to have a group experience where words aren't necessary. You know, music is a universal language. It's a beautiful way to communicate with other people without even having to deal with the restraints of language, the limitations. And as a therapist, I really know that sometimes language is not enough, right? And when it comes to dealing with stress and anxiety and trauma, we store it in our bodies. And so to be able to get together and drum, you're going to like drum it out and release emotion and relieve some stress and just really be able to connect very deeply with yourself and with other people. It really is a unique experience. And so super excited. I love how with Tammy's energy healing conferences, we're able to gather people together. And it's really fun.
I've been doing these for a long time, and it's really amazing to me how for some people, like their desire to come to the conferences, some of it is really similar to what it used to be, but it's also evolved and changed as time has gone on. A lot of people have been experiencing that loneliness or that isolation, sometimes voluntary, sometimes not. And you know, to be able to come together, it's almost like a recalibration of your energy, right? To be able to have that. And everybody's got a drum beat. Everybody's got, you know, different things going on inside of them. And this is just a way to be able to alleviate some of that. So,
yeah. So many people tell me, they're like, I don't have any sense of rhythm. And so they feel intimidated by the idea of doing a drum circle. Or people have what one of my teachers calls instrumental phobia. So like this fear of like playing an instrument, because a lot of people are survivors of piano lessons, you know, where maybe they were like forced to practice and they lost their joy and passion for it. or like they got some message at some point, you know, saying that like they weren't musical, they're not rhythmical. And a lot of times those become those limiting beliefs. Now with my drum circles, I really focus on making them very accessible, very engaging, meaningful, and fun. And there's something that everyone can play. And so like, just, I'm going to do an instrument show and tell, if that's okay. I have some instruments in my office with me. This is a djembe drum.
Awesome.
And so I've got like large drums where I'll teach like simple rhythms. And then I have like a bunch of like smaller djembes.
I'm gonna make myself smaller so that we can see these. This is amazing.
Oh yeah, did you? Okay. Yeah, like, so I held up the djembe, and then this is like a medicine drum or a frame drum. This style of drum goes back 10,000 years. Like, isn't that insane? And so, and if you could hear it right now, I mean, in person, you'd be able to hear the vibration and feel the vibrations of these instruments. So I have a lot of drums. I have 150 drums, but then I also have a bunch of like handheld small percussion, like these cute little frogs.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of instruments from Peru. When I was in Peru, I bought a lot of instruments. And so like something that's just like easy to play that adds a unique sound, right? It's like everybody gets to have their own voice, right? And figure out how it fits in with everybody else. And so I get really excited about that.
That's fun.
Have a lot of drumming. You know, I use some unique instruments too. This is a whistling vessel from Peru. I don't know.
That was so neat.
Like it works by having water and air moving through it. And they're really cool because it was funny. They kept finding them. Archaeologists kept finding them in burial grounds, and they thought it was just like a fancy water pitcher until they realized it was a musical instrument. I need to put more water in it, but it's cool when it whistles. It just sounds like a bird, and it was actually used for shamanic work, which was interesting. And so like I like to find a lot of easy to play instruments, and I'll use more like meditative instruments too. Like this is the still tongue drum. Go this way, but it doesn't have like any wrong notes, and just about anybody can play one.
That is so cool. Oh my gosh.
Because I'll have instruments too that have like melodic sounds to it. So we have melody in addition to the rhythm. I just love it because there's so many in my circles, like people come up to me afterwards and they'll be like, that was amazing. Like that wasn't what I expected, but I didn't know what to expect. And a lot of people that were like, hey, I can drum. Just like you were saying, we all have a heartbeat. We all have this internal drum inside of us. And there's a rhythm to so many things that we do in our life. There's a rhythm to how we speak, to how we breathe, to how we move. And it's really beautiful when these rhythms get in sync with other people's rhythms around us as well. It's like I keep saying, a really unique way to connect at a time when we really could use some more connection.
That is so awesome. Well, I know that this is something that really, like, any gender, any age, any ethnicity, like anybody, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you've been through, what you're going through currently, you could come together at this drum circle and get healing literally in that moment. Tell us a little bit more about, like, is this recommended for teenagers? If you know somebody that has a teen that is dealing with depression, do you think that this is like something that teens like subscribe to? Like, are they going to be excited going there in a community drum circle like this?
Yeah. So I've been able to work a lot with teenagers. Up until just recently, I was doing weekly drum circles at a teen center here in town. And so it was a lot of drumming, a lot of like free form drumming with them too, that we would also have this mental health aspect to it as well. So I was working with some teenagers who were dealing with some really, really heavy issues, and just the therapeutic benefit alone of coming and banging on something was really helpful. Again, like sometimes we just don't have the right words to express what we're experiencing, what we're feeling. Being able to put our thoughts into words that we can articulate can be really difficult, but having some kind of an expression is really beneficial. Something that I love about drumming is like, so you mentioned that I do EMDR as a therapist, and EMDR is a type of therapy that's very effective with trauma, where you have some kind of what's called bilateral stimulation. Like you either move your eyes back and forth from left to right, or you can like tap yourself, or you can drum, but it activates both the right and left hemispheres of the brain. And it really helps us to be able to revisit our trauma and experience it in a new way. It does a lot to desensitize things. And so this does go back to teenagers, but it's like the originator of EMDR, Francine Shapiro, was talking about African tribes in Africa and how like the warriors would go off to battle and experience trauma. And then they'd come home and the community would gather together and they would drum together and they would dance together. And that they were finding that like these warriors weren't developing PTSD because they were bringing their trauma home and they were drumming it out and they were dancing it out. And it was like that bilateral stimulation, just like we use in therapy now, that was helping them to reprocess things. And so I feel like, I've worked with teens that have experienced trauma. I mean, everybody's experienced trauma, but when there's a lot that they're trying to work through and grapple, as they're also trying to figure out who they are and what their identity is. It's really beneficial to have other tools to use. And I think drumming is a beautiful tool of self-expression and releasing of emotion. And then again, to like have that bonding and camaraderie with other people. With teenagers that come to like my other community events, sometimes when it's a parent that's encouraging them to come, usually they come in and they're like, what are we doing? This is so stupid. Like, I'm supposed to hit a drum, I mean, every once in a while, some of them are like, yeah, like give me something to hit. But like, it's not just teenagers, but when I've done this in like corporate settings or something, when someone comes into a conference and they weren't expecting a drum circle and they're like, what are all these instruments here for? I really love it when there's initially some resistance, because it almost always loosens up where they start like moving and they start drumming and maybe singing. And like, it really pulls people in, I think, and breaks down those walls. And so, like I said, it is pretty accessible and it is so engaging that people tend to really enjoy it. And so I'll have people afterwards, they'll tell me, I was not thinking that this was something I was going to enjoy, but I loved it. That was amazing.
Well, people really enjoyed it at our conference that we did this summer. In fact, it was one of the biggest hits of the entire experience. We had so many people from all over the place come to our conference this summer. It's an international event that literally attracts a lot of people, thousands of people. And when people would go to your drum circle, I mean, they would literally come back over to the registration table and tell us how much they enjoyed it. And so we heard from dozens and dozens of people right after that would come up and tell us that. And so we're so excited to have you back in Pocatello. I'm kind of in the middle between Ogden and Pocatello where I live. So I'm really excited to have a bunch of family who's also from the Idaho Falls area come and attend. So I actually have some free tickets right now. I'm going to go ahead and put my email up across the screen here because I'd really like to be able to do some of those. So if you are watching right now, whether you're live or on the replay, I want to invite you to send me an email over to Tammy@hopehavenevents.com so I can hook you up, especially if there's somebody that you know who maybe can't express themselves verbally like Camie's talking about, but you just know that this is going to help them. Like you just know, and even people who are really like extroverted or who are like, you see them and you think that they're socially just like really outgoing. And of course they have lots of friends. You don't really know when people are experiencing like despair or even loneliness. And something like this could help pull them out of that funk or help them get a reset. Right?
Yeah. No, that makes me think of like one conference where it was a conference on leaving religion, and it was going to be a lot about connecting with other people. And there was this woman that was telling me that when she and her husband walked in and saw the instruments everywhere, her husband is so introverted, and he was like, no, like, what is this? And But she said that he really got into it. And a couple of times he's like, no, she's doing it like this, was like telling her like what to do. And then at the end, he turned to his wife and he said, I can do anything now. He's like, I just did like one of the hardest things I ever thought I would be asked to do. And I'm just like wide open now. And I can do anything now with this conference. And so it really helps set the stage of just like, yes, being an icebreaker, but just like opening him up. And it does take some courage, right? A willingness to lean into something that maybe feels unfamiliar and out of your comfort zone. Yet that's like where transformation takes place, right? It's outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah, I love it. I love that so much. Well, thank you for sharing that story too. That's really cool. So let's say that there's somebody that's watching this, whether it's on the live or the replay, and they are not from the area or they're not going to be available to attend the Pocatello conference. How can they get a hold of you? How can they work with you?
Yes.
More.
Because I do travel for events. I am located in Idaho Falls, but like I said, I travel, and my website is flowingrivercircle.com. And so that's a way where you can kind of see some of the things that services I provide. It's funny, Camie, because when I do these drum circles, I always have people that reach out to me about therapy that are looking for a therapist. And so that's something to know too. I am licensed in Idaho and in Utah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. And I do personal coaching for people that don't want to do therapy, but that want to have some like one-on-one work. And that a lot of that could be done in person or over, telehealth, online. And so anyway,
that is seriously so great, because there are a lot of people who really do need extra help and extra support right now. And I love how the stigma is completely being changed now. Like everybody should have a therapist, or everybody should have a coach, or like we all could use some, someone to talk to, some guidance, some growth, some extra support in any area. Right. So yes. I love that so much.
Yeah. Well, and something just along the lines of that too, therapy is great. I love therapy. There's only so much you can do when it's an hour each week. And so that's why I really love to run retreats too. So I do have a report that's coming up in November 4th through 6th. Yes, I'm going to do it with Nicole Packer.
I love
yes. And so she's a clinical hypnotherapist and yoga instructor, and she's amazing. A retreat is a great opportunity to really come and like submerge yourself, right? Like to really get away from work and family and other obligations, and to be able to really go deep with the kinds of healing that you're hoping to have. And so it is very therapeutic. We do group EMDR. There is drumming. There is yoga. There's clinical, like there's hypnotherapy. I know, Tammy, you should come, but
yeah, November 4th through the 6th. Is there like all the details and everything about that on your website?
Yep, it's on my website too. Yep, it's at LaBelle Lake in Rigby. So beautiful grounds. We even get to do axe throwing. Like it's just
oh my gosh, that's
lots of different things to do with our bodies and with our minds. And so
cool. Well, I have your retreats as on my wish list. So there you go.
Oh, well, great. Yeah, but that's great. And that's something that people, will travel out of town for. It's just to be able to have an extended experience. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. You guys, I'm really looking forward to seeing you out in Pocatello, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Camie.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.